What we're going to do with the panel is to discuss the different approaches to resilience and how the model may be used to effectively target resources and efforts. And then we look at ways to use the index to inspire conversation and drive actions to address the global food security issue. Okay, so what I'll do is ask each member of the panel first to introduce themselves and to discuss their current role. So what do they do, and how does that role relate to building food and nutrition security, and also highlight any key challenges and opportunities that they see relative to the Global Food Security Index. And I'll start with you, Hans.
Oh, wow. So I think we're on. First of all, being based in Switzerland, I really have to give you some insight, to what is this all about. Now, I think it's interesting, to see how such an architecture of this index is important, and more important, what you're reading out of those things. And it is absolutely correct that, yes, apparently, the Swiss, they spend only 8% of their household income, and they spend twice on education, 16%. That's an interesting one, to put that in perspective. But here comes another one, and that is a kind of breaking news. They spend 3 times what they spend on food for insurances. Have you known that? There is no other country who spends so much in insurance spending. They don't like to take a lot of risks, But they also do not take a lot of risks in their food security system. But what we also do not read out of this index is that Switzerland depends today on more than 50-55% on imports to feed its population. And that is something that goes also with the saying, yes, almost or only little R&D in agriculture back in Switzerland. That's very interesting. Huh? A lot of basic research, but not too much spending, public spending anymore in R&D. But a lot of private spending on agricultural R&D by private enterprises, private sector, linked directly into what I would call applied research with farmers. And I think that is something that is an extremely important indicator. I don't know how to capture this kind of indicator into such an index, but seeing where innovation is being driven and by whom to really reach the farming community. And I think in many countries you are all acting and you're active in, if we can see, how we can make that knowledge, that technology is available at the farm level, I think that is one of the biggest impacts we can really create. Now, yes, what do I do in fact? That is what you have asked me.
Absolutely.
So at Nestlé, as the corporate head of agriculture, my responsibility, we always say we do not have roles at Nestlé. We only have one gentleman who has a role. This is George Clooney with Nespresso, but he is from Hollywood and we are from Vevey, so we have responsibilities, and my responsibility is mainly to drive a organization in the supply chain we call Farmer Connect or direct supply, where we are interacting in about 52 countries with 700,000 plus farmers, mainly smallholders, and where we are sourcing agricultural materials directly at the farm gate and we are delivering at the factory gate. And we have about 15,000 people directly engaged on these supply chains to have ensured supply of safe, quality assured agriculture materials delivered to the factories around the globe. And we have manufacturing sites in 87 countries. And that is my job. It's a very easy job. It's about ensured supply to about 350 factories worldwide. And here, specifically on the continent of Africa, we are now in between 85 to 90% of the total volume of agriculture materials we are using in our end products that are locally or, let's say, African sourced. So that is one of our contributions also to food security, having local sourcing activities clearly set out in our business principles as one of the big contributions in our approach on rural development. Why? Not only because you really impact rural development locally, but you are also more resilient in terms of price shocks. You're not exposed to, once you do not have half a dozen of middlemen in the supply chain, to all these different, very complicated sometimes logistical setups, but you really know, first of all, where it's coming from, so you have traceability and you can impact quality, and you can also impact the volume growth in a certain region, and you have less swings because you're not exposed to different currencies, but you're operating mainly in one or maximum in two currencies if you're really into a region like here in Africa. And I think this is exactly what you have heard from the previous speaker. Food security is also a function of trade and open trade. As I said, the Swiss, they depend more to get their food from somewhere else than from the Swiss agriculture production system. So trade and trade regimes and values and administrative hurdles that are around are extremely important to address. It's not only about agriculture productivity per se and what is called the agriculture infrastructure. I was yesterday in Djibouti, and I looked at the port facilities because we are facing some problems to ship around our products. But some of you may know that also in the port facilities of Djibouti, there is one of the biggest hubs of the World Food Programme. And talking with these people, they are extremely exposed to the same problems as we are, where we have disruption of supply and we have waste and where we have a lot of things that could run much better and much smoother if we would have clear principles, clear policies, clear processes, and good practices to use this overall logistical infrastructure. And it has also been said, logistical infrastructure investment really to make food security here in the continent and having open trade is probably one of the most biggest things to address together also with, yes, R&D in agriculture, good agriculture practices, and working with farmers in order really to get also the right volumes close to the consumers. So that is in a few words what I'm expected to do here on the continent. But I'm willing then to get a lot of your questions also during the question and answer session. Thank you.
Sure, thank you so much.